Tonight, before we do, and public comment is by way of calling in on the Selectmen's phone number. Mike, could you, I don't know the number.
Yes, it's the Selectmen's office number, 978-365-4120. It was posted on the agenda, if anyone had the meeting agenda, 365-4120.
Okay, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to update the board on town activities relative to the virus issue and a couple of issues that the Director of Economic Development for the town of Clinton wants to put forward relative to that. Before we start public comment, I just want to take an opportunity to thank an awful lot of people, and I know I'm going to leave people off this list. First, I want to thank Vice Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Sean Kerrigan, for his assistance in getting our message out on various formats and to the board, and to helping to set up this whole remote participation and public participation on the board. His help, along with Town Administrator Mike Ward, has been great to get us to this point. And tonight it is an experiment, and we'll probably be doing this again. I want to thank the public and the businesses for their cooperation with the Board of Health. We know it's a difficult time for all of them, but my observation of the town of Clinton is everybody's working hard to get through this process. I want to thank our first responders, the police, the fire, and DPW, and the Board of Health for all their work. And it seems like it's been a long time, but it's only been a little more than a week. It seems like it's been a year. I want to thank all the other town employees for keeping us up and running and allowing the public to conduct their business with the town in spite of the shutdowns of the buildings, etc. I want to thank the Council on Aging and WEAT for their outreach to the community and for getting the meals out to some of our most vulnerable population. I want to thank the schools for everything that they're doing. The school department is working hard to complete their mission of education, but they immediately took on the responsibility for continuing a meal program and getting it out to the community from multiple locations. The school department has made their nurses available to the Board of Health for anything that needs to be done in the future. And I want to applaud the teachers for their interaction with their students and trying to keep things going, but for the parade, just trying to lift the spirits of the community by the ride around town that they did the other day. There's too many people to mention. Solicitor Bob Gibbons and Phil Duffy for their work. People have just jumped in to find ways to solve the problems that are there and find creative ways to participate. And I want to thank my fellow board members for their advice and counsel and for their work in helping get us through this. Our next meeting, April 1st, is it April 1st?
Yes.
April 1st will be a regular business meeting of the Board of Selectmen focused on our developing a budget and our priority list for the budget, and we will just take up any emergency business relative to the virus situation. That being said, I'm going to open the meeting to public comment. I'll give people 30 seconds or 60 seconds to call in, and then we'll move on to regular business.
Should we check the email? Weren't they also going to send emails to the...
Yes, they were able to send emails I did not get.
Okay.
All right, if somebody calls in, we'll interrupt the meeting. Mr. Duffy, you have a couple of things to put before us?
I do, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be as brief as possible.
Can you hear Phil?
I can hear fine, thank you, yes.
Not exactly, but I've been through it, so I'll catch up in a second.
Okay. I am bringing 3 items before you. Each of these is related to ongoing developments. The first has to do with the proposal for the town to enter into agreement with WE Community Connections. This agreement would allow us to provide wheat a daily subsidy to support the ongoing and increasing activities of that organization to address a need in the community. In short, since the start of the declaration of emergency, Wheat has had to change the method in which they provide their service, which are meals, and as a consequence of that, their daily delivery is increased by about fourfold. So after understanding that, I reached out to the director and doing some figuring based on our experience in 2015, 2016 with a social service activity we provided, the senior shuttle program. We arrived at a figure that would adequately address their needs in the short term. So what I'm asking is that the selectmen agree to enter into agreement that would provide them a stipend of about $150 a day, equivalent to 60 meals, that the stipend provided to them for the duration till the earlier of June 30th or the lifting of the state of emergency. And that's it in short.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Duffy?
I'll make a motion we entertain into discussion with wheat for the purposes of sponsoring meals for 150 meals per day.
$150 per day to provide 6 meals for a period of time to extend to the earlier of the lifting of the state of emergency or June 30th.
And that motion would authorize the chairman to enter into that memorandum of agreement.
Sure, yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? Okay, next, Mr. Duffy?
Second proposal is to utilize funds in the Community Development Fund to create a microloan program for small businesses in town. This follows a model that's being implemented currently in Worcester and in Fitchburg and in some other areas of the country, most notably the state of Maryland. This is a fund that we have used in the past to provide loans to businesses who have wanted to acquire property or expand operations with the purpose of creating jobs. It is miscellaneous income, and under the definition of its particular kind of money, it can be used for other activities, including replacement of inventory and fixed costs. With that in mind, I'm proposing that we utilize $150,000 from the Community Development Fund to create a resiliency loan program. This program would make loans of up to $5,000 available to small businesses. Small businesses would have to demonstrate need, the intent of the program is to get that money out quickly, to cover expenses incurred between March 10th or loss of business incurred between March 10th and April 30th. We set that date with the idea that it is likely that larger assistance will be arriving for those who need it from the federal government at about that time. So really the purpose of this program is to get the money out quickly, to address the needs for some of our smaller businesses, and on a case-by-case basis, accept applications for larger awards. We've done actually a lot of legwork, spoken with numerous bankers, planners, business people, lawyers, funders, to devise this program, to ensure that it works well and quickly and hopefully responsibly, and can assist some businesses that are struggling.
Does anyone have any questions for Phil on this? If there's no,
Yeah. What would the criteria be for the loan?
Well, in order to in order to be eligible, a business would have to be located in Clinton, as demonstrated by a commercial mortgage or lease, or if it's a business if it operates at home, that it have at least one employee other than the owner for whom the business withholds payroll taxes. So there's a threshold that says that you're in business and that you're in the community. Outside of that, pretty much any business would be eligible. I can tell you that some communities have limited certain kinds of businesses, check cashing businesses, adult use establishments, franchisees, realtors. We don't have some of those things, and I don't know that, and what we're proposing will not limit necessarily those businesses from applying. You have a copy of the draft program description in front of you. We would ask businesses to document the monthly expenses, their fixed payroll expenses. We would ask them to self-certify that their loss of business has been greater than 50% in terms of gross sales. And we'd ask them to document any expenses that they have that are a consequence of the current state of emergency. That could be things like, increased schedules of disinfecting or cleaning, new certifications, those kinds of things. We would then evaluate that, and they would evaluate it by my office. And I've already obtained the agreement of a banker who lives in town but doesn't work for a local bank, and a lawyer who lives in town but does not work for an in-town firm to assist in reviewing these applications so that it has some professional rigor in terms of how we're doing it. Applicants would be asked to provide us with a W-9 form, a copy of their most recent tax return, a personal finance statement, and usual financial instruments like profit and loss statements, balance sheets, UCC, which is a statement of uniform commercial assets. These are routine financial instruments. If a business is small and can't provide that to us, we can provide assistance to them to generate that stuff. We would look at that to understand that the business is viable. We would ask what their plans are for sustaining the business after this current emergency, and we would ask them to identify their importance to the community. And that could be something as simple as saying, I hire people, or I provide a unique service or product, or that we participate in the community at large. There's a wide range of ways that can demonstrate that they're important to town. We've been in business for a long time, but those are the criteria, those are the eligible businesses, and those would be the criteria we would use in evaluating applications.
And Phil, this is very similar to a loan program that we've run in the past.
This is very similar. Yes, it is similar in one respect, because we are making loans to private establishments. It's different in that these are what are commonly known as microloans. These are small loans. We'll be securing them only with a pure personal guarantee. They will be issued at very favorable terms. Our intent is to make sure that businesses are still here when this is all over, so we wanted to help them address some of their fixed costs and a portion of their losses.
Any other questions from the board?
No, I'd just like to say I should have worded my question better. What I was really looking for, and we did provide this, what would they be using the money for? It's mostly for expenses associated
Yes.
with this emergency.
Yes, and the program description outlines what eligible uses of the funds are, and those include fixed monthly costs, payroll costs, business losses, and increased expenses.
Okay, I'd appreciate a motion, if the board's so inclined, that we make $150,000 available from the Community Development Fund to create a small business resiliency program, the purpose of which will be to assist Clinton's small businesses absorb the financial impacts of the COVID-19 state of emergency.
So
Second.
moved.
Oh,
Moved and seconded.
right.
Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Great, thank you. We hope to have this, the application mechanicals out probably by tomorrow afternoon, and hopefully begin reviewing early next week. And the idea is to get this money out quickly.
Mr. Duffy, thank you very much for the initiative you've shown in developing the ideas for these programs and getting them out there. Too bad you weren't down in Washington right now.
Hey, they're almost there. If I had $2 trillion, I would do it. The final item is informational, and it has to do with another assistance program, very similar to the one I just described, except that in proposing that we request to DHCD that we amend our 17 grant, which is ongoing, and move funds from the commercial improvements program to a new program, which would be a small business assistance program targeted to low and moderate income businesses or businesses that serve a low and moderate clientele. That is a restriction that comes with that funding source, the Community Development Block Grant. We would look to program about $75,000 from the commercial improvements program to this program. Would allow us to make loans probably up to the on the order of up to $15,000 to qualified businesses. It would still leave in the aggregate between grant funds and town funds committed to the program about $150,000 in the commercial improvements program, which I'm forecasting will be adequate to the needs of the two programs, the two projects that are currently being developed in the improvements program. Through this, that's informational. I'll be holding a public hearing on those grant amendments. Unless your board feels otherwise, next week, and I'll be coming to you during your regular meeting as part of a formal public hearing to request that amendment, which is the procedural requirement of DHCD.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy. That concludes your business, so you'll
That
bring
includes
that
my business.
forward next week.
Yes.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is emergency response update. I'm going to take this a little bit out of order and ask the board to consider declaring a state of emergency relative to the COVID-19 situation. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I move that we declare a state of emergency in response to the COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak.
I'll second that motion.
Is there any discussion?
And Mr. Chair, just on that, if the board could make that date retro to the governor's declaration, so it covers the total period, which was a
Okay.
request from
Do we know
the
what that
emergency
date was?
management director.
The governor's announcement date? Well, the,
March,
I'll amend the motion to
No,
follow the
March
date laid
12th.
out by the governor.
March 12th.
Okay.
is there a second to that amendment?
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion on making that declaration of emergency? There being none, Sean, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. There being none, all those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Next item is an operations briefing from the town administrator. You want to update the board and the community on where we are?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I appreciate all the support and work by the board members and the chairman being there almost daily, helping us kind of get through this. Also want to thank the Board of Health. They've been doing a lot of work in daily communication with them, but also all our employees. Everyone has really stepped up, as the chair indicated. Offices are open. We are conducting business. As of the board's vote last week to close the building for public access, no buildings in town have public access, but employees are working. As of the governor's order this week, we kind of gave department heads an ability to come up with a plan that's going to continue operations with the safety of the employees in mind. So the offices have been doing some remote work, but also in the office. So they're doing alternating staffing on days to keep the offices open. So here this week, here at the town hall, pretty much every office has been open, just about every day. All business is being conducted. Payroll, payables, we're collecting taxes, inspections are being done with caution that the building inspector has from the state on how to take precautions when he's going on site. So pretty much everything town hall function is being done. There is a drop box in the front of the building that we had put in. So anyone that wants to drop off their tax bills can leave it there. If there's any other business that people have forms or applications, permits, if there's something for the town clerk, for birth certificate requests or anything. We even have other departments that are dropping off their payroll or their bills, their payables for the warrants that we're using kind of even inter-office communication. So anything that we need to get paper to us can be dropped in that box. If there's some emergency which needs some contact with someone from the public, the departments are going outside onto the steps of the sidewalk to do that if need be, to make a transaction if need be. So people are just trying to keep their distance internally, but everyone's here doing work. When people have, if they are remote, they have remote access to their computer from home. They have email remote access. They have voicemail remote access. So everyone is able to do what they can here. Been checking with the police, fire, and public works. They've been continuing operations again. There hasn't been any limitation on anything that's been done. There have been some on the police and fire staff. There are some employees that have gone into quarantine after being tested. We don't have any. Thankfully, no positive tests by any employee, but there have been some exposures that they've been tested for. But they're still operating. The fire chief had a concern was for personal protective gear, but he said that this, just as of yesterday, the state is starting to roll out some of that equipment. So they were hoping that that would continue to come, and that would be kind of their biggest needs with gowns and masks and gloves is what they're really looking for. So hopefully that'll continue to come for them to be able to get through. When we have 4 as of this afternoon, 4 confirmed positive tests here in Clinton. We have, as of this morning, we announced 3, but this afternoon the state called with another one, so that'll be updated once the Board of Health gets their call in the morning. We'll update that if there's any others that have come in, but as of right now, there are 4. Once we got the first positive notices last week, we did an all-call to the town to let people know that we did have cases and that they could go to the website to continue to monitor that. So we try to put updated numbers daily so people can keep track of the activity here in Clinton. So other than that, I don't know if there's any specific questions that the board has. Even the Parks, Library, Senior Center, again, they're all trying to provide service as best they can with being close to the public. We still have the Meals on Wheels program is still being delivered. There's been an uptick in requests for meals, so they're doing more than they've done before. They're still doing outreach with checking on the seniors daily. They're doing alternating staffs as well, so there are people in the building, in the library. They're doing professional development. They're manning the phones. They're trying to beef up some of their online programs. They've gotten some requests from people to try to see if they could do some more stuff online. Their Wi-Fi is on and working. One of their biggest users are people coming to the library to use the computers. They, at least if people need internet access, that their Wi-Fi is on, so if people need to go on the front steps or the lawn or pull up to the back parking lot of the library, they can use their Wi-Fi. And the library has even tried to help out as best they can. They help a citizen that needed to put in an unemployment application, and they wanted to come to use a computer at the library because they didn't have a computer themselves. So with barring the public access, they talked to them over the phone, and they filled out the application for this person through the state portal. The staff did it for them for the library. So everyone's trying to find ways to help as best they can. But the biggest message is that I want the community to know that town offices are still open. We are still doing full business, and there, as of this time, no services have been reduced in terms of town hall administration. The library and parks and seniors have suspended programs which would require congregating of people coming together, which would violate the governor's order of 10 or more people. So they had to cancel any programs so they wouldn't have crowds of people. But other than that, in terms of what we're offering or what people might need here at Town Hall for building permits, for vital records, or any type of service that we do, we are here and working and getting it done.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Mike?
Yes, I have a question about the numbers. So last week, there were 2.
Right.
And I know in conversations with you, Michael, that one of those persons has since recovered, has done the quarantine, and does that person stay on the list? So,
It stays on, they stay on the list as in total.
yes,
And then what we started to break down now is, because that initially was just the first report.
Right.
So now what we're doing since is we're updating that total, but on the bottom, we're putting number of cases in quarantine and number of cases resolved.
Oh,
that-
good.
That
Okay.
have been resolved. So then those two numbers should add up to the total up above.
Okay.
So we can know what the whole picture
Yeah,
is. Yeah,
right.
so, and the Board of Health is required on it, while someone is in quarantine, on a positive test, not just anybody that's in quarantine because of possible exposure, but if you have had a positive result, they're required to do daily calls, interviewing the patient to see what their symptoms, their temperature, how they're feeling until they're until they're better or they're off of quarantine. So as we anticipate the cases will start to increase, we have one public health nurse that's doing that, and the Board of Health has worked with the superintendent of schools to enlist the support of the school nurses. So they are being trained by the Board of Health now to come in and help out in that endeavor as well. Right now, with the 4 cases, it's manageable, but if that becomes a higher number, then they'll need more people that'll come in. And it's just an office setting where they come in with a checklist and they call the patient and go through the checklist. So that's something that they'll continue to monitor as the cases continue, as we expect, so.
Ed?
Question on that, do we want citizens where, like, at work, there was a person at work that was in relative contact with me, so I went into quarantine for a while, I contacted the nurse. Are we asking everyone in the town if they get information from their work or from someplace else that they may have been in contact, do we want them to contact the town nurse for them to be monitored, tracked?
No, not at this time. I think right now they're only monitoring positive cases. If somebody has questions and they have concerns and they want to check in and ask, kind of how their symptoms are or what, anything that they might have any concern about, absolutely, we suggest that, they call and they're available, they're answering calls. But right now, we're not monitoring just quarantine cases because I think that would be a huge number.
What about town employees, though? Do we want them to, if something unrelated to their job at the town, if they get information that they may have been in contact with somebody that was tested positive, should town employees contact the nurse and tell them of the situation?
I mean, certainly it'd be helpful to know. I think what they've been doing is telling their department head, and that they then are going into quarantine based on protocols that they're through their exposure. So we've had some employees that have been awaiting testing, but it's through exposure through a family member. So,
Right.
So we would like to know that, so we could know on our staffing levels, the department head knows kind of what their time frame that they'll be out.
Right.
But in terms of the public health, keeping track of those cases, that's not something in the protocol that they're looking to do right now, so.
Okay. I just had a couple other short questions. If the answer is no, it's no problem. I'm just curiosity's sake. Are all town employees still at this point engaged in some type of work, be it on a different scale? Because I know we've moved, we're trying to keep people, distance them apart.
Right.
Or have some departments made the decision that they're going to, basically reduce their workforce temporarily to try to keep transmission down?
No, I think everyone is engaged in some type of work. Like I said, the administrative staff are doing alternating staffing in the buildings, but when they're not in the building, they're still obligated to do work on the days they're not here.
Okay.
Police and fire are there, all hands on deck, so they're doing regular staffing, dispatch, and through Public Works, they were, as of this week, they were looking to do some type of distancing where they're doing some alternating days and alternating shifts as well too. So it isn't a point where we reduce staff and people are saying we don't need you, until we call you. It's everybody is working. It's just rotating people in and out to what they need. But when people are off duty, they're expected to still be, connected, that they're still doing projects or being connected some way to their job.
Okay. And have there been discussions with the with the fire department and the police, more the fire department, I think, is the bigger concern, just because of how close in proximity all the workers are, but have there been any discussions for a worst-case scenario, like what happens if there's a large amount of firemen that get sick at the same time? Do we have agreements with other towns, or like for assistance for people to fill in, or anything of that nature?
Yep, absolutely. They have, both have mutual aid agreements, so
Okay.
when we need help, also the state would be available to come in as needed as well. The police chief indicated, if they got to that desperation, that they would ask for state police to come in and help patrol and help out if we get to that point. There are some, and if we get to the real desperation, I mean, there are a number of retired police officers as well. It's just, in retirement, they don't keep up their certification, so, it would be, taking that risk of putting them in a situation where they haven't kept up on their training. But if we're at that desperation, that may be something we'd look at. But I think they would look at current staffing and then probably help from state police. The fire, the same, although, that they were down a couple of positions already, so they're already concerned if they start getting people going out. But that they do have mutual aid, they do have the paramedic contracts and agreements with paramedic service as well too, and then hopefully the state to try to come in and try to help out as where we can there as well too. The biggest call would be for them would be the EMS, so we would even, we have a volunteer force, but I'm not sure how many have the EMS training, the EMT training, so that's the biggest thing, is that we would need the medical expertise, because thankfully with all the modern protections, there aren't as many fires, so the biggest bulk of their work would be the EMS work, so they are trying to keep, the biggest thing is trying to keep them safe, so, with the firefighters that they have the protective gear, they have protocols on when they're going into calls, of how to wear it, how to use it. They have a special kind of a COVID-19 bag, so if they know they're going into maybe that type of situation, they have a separate bag that they would go in and use on that call, so it would keep it separate from the rest of their equipment. Anytime they do a transport, they totally decontaminate the ambulance. So there are things that they are really taking precautions to make sure that they don't get sick. And the big thing is obviously they personally don't want to get sick, but also they have concern with their families, and bringing anything back to their families. So they're trying to really be vigilant in staying as clean and decontaminated as possible, which will hopefully keep them healthy as well to provide the service.
I just want to interrupt for a minute. Sean, do you have anything? Because I just got the signal we're going to run out of Zoom time pretty quickly.
No, I can call Mike. Yeah,
All right.
I've got some notes about how to go better, obviously, but I think we're so.
Well, thank you. In case we get cut off, you can always call in. But thank you very much for everything you did to get this set up and to keeping our communications going.
It's a work in progress, and I've been watching Facebook on the other screen, so there's a lot of some things we have to work on the way we're discussing to get in shape for next week, for time.
All right, thank you. Ed, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was worried.
So there is, one thing that we're looking into, which hopefully might help with the firefighters, is they had recently received a grant, a federal grant, to put an industrial washer and dryer down there for their turnout gear, mostly for their fire gear, based on the, carcinogens and all that. There needs some extensive work to the building, plumbing work and electrical work in order to get that set up. So the facilities director had put into his FY21 budget to do that work on the building in order to get that up to speed. However, I think the firefighters are asking now that maybe even if they had just a regular washer and dryer, that maybe they could wash their clothes here before they bring them home. So Russ is looking into what would be needed in order to set that up. You know, it's not the big commercial machine, so maybe it might be something that he could do with smaller money, and whether I don't know if he would have it in his budget, or we'd need to maybe approach the finance committee for a transfer, but that would be something, again, I think that the firefighters has expressed that could maybe even help a little bit more on allowing them to clean all their clothes and their uniform before they go home.
It looks like Sean just got an extension from Zoom. They removed the 40-minute time limit, at least that's what, yes, Sean?
I've spent time on Zoom this year, these couple, 3 days.
Okay.
Yeah, I was speaking informally with the deputy chief at the fire department, he brought up that washer dryer thing. And Russ and Mike were good enough to, I think they're looking into it, and they did basically the same thing. It seems like a small lift, but we can figure out a way to find a place to get this installed. There's something to do all sorts of jump through all sorts of where to work, what they wear to work, what they wear home, how they change out of it. I know there's extraordinary times, but if there's a way we can figure it out, I think these things work well.
If the board's so inclined, I'd like a motion directing Mike and the facility director to make this happen,
Necessary.
make it happen quickly.
Absolutely.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion?
Yeah, I mean, if they're not waiting to hear, did they already get the grant, or are they waiting to hear?
No, they already did get the grant, and we have that washer and dryer, but I think Russ was saying, I think there was like $15,000 worth of work to the building that's needed for the commercial. But I think they're saying this would be just for their uniform and their clothing. So the commercial dryer, they can put their turnout gear in there, so they can
Yeah.
put their firefighter gear in there.
Oh, okay.
But
High priority.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it should be his number one priority right now, because that's my biggest concern right now, is making sure the fire department is protected as much as we can. So if they think that the washer and dryer and installation is what's gonna help them out the most, then I don't know do we have, access to funds that we can release quickly, or is it in Russ's budget that he can use?
yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of his capital money has been spent. So if it's that, it's, you know, it's $15,000-$20,000.
I mean, I guess this isn't something that like is gonna take like 2 or 3 weeks before we can get like the money
No,
available.
this is gonna happen tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll find the money somewhere and then balance the accounts at the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Make it happen.
Yes, Sean?
It's my understanding that Russ has a washer and dryer in his possession. I think we got it already, it's just a question of installing it. So I might be off on that, but that's what he's going this morning, so it shouldn't be that heavy a lift. I want to make sure the police take care of it if they need it, but either way, it should be hard to go out and get a relatively low impact washer dryer for two pounds.
Right. And that was the motion, is to get it. It's not a budget breaker, and we can find money at the end of the year to cover the expense. But the intent of the motion is that it happen immediately.
Whatever he needs.
Chair, can I just request that this action item just get put on the budget or the agenda for next week, just to follow up with it to see where it's at?
It's gonna be done. It'll be an update next week, but it's gonna be done before that meeting.
Perfect, thank you.
Is there any other discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, is there any other business? Old or no?
just, could do this offline, but I'd like to, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, work with Sean and Mike about possibly, I know they've been working on the webpage on putting information on there. I just have some suggestions. I just want to run by Mike and Sean about if we think it might be a good idea to get some contact information, some links. For example, the senior center. I know they've been helping out with a lot of at-risk elderly people. I'd just like as much as possible to get all the COVID-19 information on the front page. And I don't know if I'm wondering if it might be worth just having the front page, as soon as you go to the website, having the home page open up immediately to our COVID-19 information and response. I mean, I know right now it's just one extra click, but it might be worth just making the front page just to have the important links of different departments that are working to try to help everybody out with this. And I know we already have one update on there that of what we're currently doing, but like I said, I don't want to get into the weeds of it now, but I think I can talk with Mike and Sean offline to see what information we think would be critical to be on that page, so that someone going to the webpage can get the information right away.
Any suggestions you have? We already made Sean our information czar. He's our communication go-to guy, so any suggestions you have, get them to him and he'll incorporate them in his ongoing great work for the town of Clinton. Is there anything else?
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Like,
just under old and new business, and before we go, and sort of to add on to your list of people I think we have to thank, if you haven't already done it, this will be duplicative. But I've been so impressed with the steadfast determination of the checkout clerks in the grocery stores. And I mean, you know, they're virtually in touch with almost every household in the town between all of the grocery stores in the area. And they really are providing a really vital service. I mean, you know, without food, the virus would have an even easier time. And so all those people that are working in those retail establishments, in the grocery stores and things of that nature, I think that they deserve a real salute, and I'd just like to provide that. That's all I have.
thank you. Is there any other old or new business?
Mr. Chair.
Sean?
Just related people that, this is a work in progress, obviously, and I appreciate their patience. I'm looking at the Zoom and the Facebook, obviously, around a lot of people on Sunday, on Zoom, thankfully. Zoom, thankfully, is a little better, but there's a little better, but there's some challenges that we're going to overcome, and I just appreciate your patience. It's something new we're trying, and if there's a silver lining on this, these tough times that maybe we can find a way to make it better overall. I just want to I'll make sure to share that on the town page tomorrow. Appreciate your patience and your
Thank you, Sean. Anyone else?
I was just curious, Mike, do you know, is the Board of Health doing anything with some of the local businesses, more so like the supermarkets and the grocery stores in town, of monitoring, making sure that they're trying to practice social distancing, people, not getting too close to each other in lines, their their procedures for cleaning their workstations and things of that nature? I honestly don't know. Do we not have the bandwidth to do that? Or
No,
is that something-
absolutely. No,
Okay.
absolutely. They've been doing that for the past 2 weeks.
Okay.
They brought materials around to the restaurants to proper food handling. They've gone around to all the grocery stores, the convenience stores, talked to them as well too. They're actually even, some of the stores, the smaller stores, they're bringing them gloves and sanitizing gel and masks when they have them to try to help them out. So they go around and they monitor them to make sure that everything is working properly, but they're also assisting them and they're also educating them as well too. So
Okay.
they've been doing that for 2 weeks there. You know, we got the chairman of the Board of Health has been putting in a lot of hours as a volunteer. We have 2 part-time health agents that have been going over and about, and a part-time office assistant and a part-time health nurse. But they've been putting in more hours than their part-time in order to get this done. So they've been going around, they were talking with the barbershop salons until the governor's order. Now they had to close them down. They're the ones that went around to tell the bars and restaurants they had to close down, and they're the ones that are going down, educating them and monitoring them. Yep, so they've been, every day they're going somewhere, talking to someone, helping out as best they can. Yep, so that's definitely something that's within their purview to keep a check on. Yep.
Just to add to that, the chairman of the Board of Health has been in contact with me at least once a day. They do, both the chairman and other board members and the staff separately go around town, making themselves available to the businesses, either telling them what's new or what they need to do, or just checking in to see if they need anything. So the Board of Health has been extremely active and every day on a daily basis. And I believe they're about to start training the school nurses to assist them as things hopefully don't, but likely will ramp up.
Right. Okay. And I guess it goes without saying, if they ever expressed a need that they were getting stretched too thin and they needed additional resources, I mean, we would
Right.
accommodate them. But I'm assuming, I mean, I know that nurses coming in has been a big help. But obviously, like, in the future, I'm sure that they'll reach out to you immediately if they.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you, and I'll let them know that as well. But I think, you know, they've done a lot preparing to get to this point, and now it's kind of a waiting game to see how many cases are going to come in. You know, I wish we could just stay where we are right now. It would, you know, it would be something, you know, manageable. But I think they're expecting things ramp up to the point where they will start getting quite busy. So I'll let them know that, and I appreciate that. That they're able to, the message they've given me right now, that they're able to manage all that they're doing right now. They feel they're on top of it, they're doing a good job, and they're good. But certainly if cases start to explode around town, then that could be a whole different situation.
Okay, anyone else? Anything? Is there, and as I said at the beginning of the meeting, we'll have a regular meeting next Wednesday, and it'll be primarily for regular business of the board, focused on preparing the town budget. Is there being nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you, and thank you for the public for following along, whether you're on Facebook or Zoom or Channel 8. You can always give us feedback on things we need to improve. Thank you. Sean,
Just